high school. Of course, the quarter is ending in a couple of weeks, so some exams, some stuff like that. Handball tournaments continue. They started back in December. A few teams competing in the gym at lunch. Next Thursday is a concert at the high school. I think bass chorus and a couple other ensembles. Regents exams for people who want to take it then are on the 20th, and we've just begun rehearsals for the musical, which I am going to right after this. Or now. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much, Robbie. Go break a leg. Yeah. And good luck to all of our students at their winter concerts. And thank you to all of our music teachers for all the effort that you put in getting all those students ready. We're now going to move on to item 1.08, which is the minutes of the regular meeting of December 9th, 2025. Has everyone had an opportunity to review the minutes? Do I have a motion to approve the minutes? Mr. Shapiro, second. Mr. Donnelly, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, abstention from Mr. Frazier. And now superintendent's comments.
Happy New Year, everyone. Nice to see everybody back here. January 6th of 2026. I'm still getting used to saying it's 26 and not 25, and I was happy to hear that there's some other people that experience the same challenges. But we're off to the second half, essentially, a little bit more than the second half of the school year. And when we come back from the holiday break, it's always nice to see all the smiling faces come back into classrooms as opposed to the exhausted faces at the very end of December, right, who are just like getting towards the holiday break. So hopefully everybody had wonderful holidays, had a chance to rest up and be ready to hit the new year running. And that's exactly what we're doing here at our board meeting tonight. We have been talking about the facilities at Suffern Central for quite some time, whether it's with Mountie Minds, whether it's in my administrative meetings, whether it's with me speaking with parents at some of our athletic facilities or at musical presentations. Suffern Central is looking and needs a bit of a refresh and an update. We have strong bones here, but we have a lot to look forward to improving our instructional spaces. And that's really what our blueprint has dictated to us this year. For those of you that were involved in the development of the blueprint in the spring and the summer and what we approved early this fall, a big part of the blueprint was modernizing instructional facilities so that our students are better prepared to enter the world of work or enter their college futures. So this evening, after a lot of visits with administrators, they've walked miles in our school buildings over the last couple of months. They know these buildings better than I do right now. They know where every little closet is and you name it. We have our architects from Mamasi who are going to be here, and I'm going to ask them to come up to the podium and begin this overview of what their findings are here at Suffern Central. And you're going to see that there is certainly an emphasis on instructional spaces, safety, student services, athletic and outdoor spaces, but they're going to be talking to you a little bit more about what they have found we need in order to make that next step. And then when they will come back next time, they will be coming and presenting to us a little bit more about the ideas that we could perhaps discuss and hopefully embrace as we look towards the future. So I'm going to stop talking before I give away too much information, and I'm going to ask Tina and Pierre to come up to the podium, introduce yourselves, and those of us that are sitting right in the front, maybe we can just shift over so that we can see the screen a little bit better. Take it away.
Thank you for having us. My name is Tina Masidi-Sayas. I am a managing partner at Mamasi.
I am Pierluigi Pancaldi. I'm a senior project architect with Mamasi.
So before we actually get into the information that we want to share with you tonight, we want to talk a little bit about pre-referendum planning. Which is sort of a two-pronged approach where we look at facilities as actual structures, so as buildings and with understanding of how the district approaches maintenance and upgrading their facilities. And we also look at instruction as learning space and the different types of learning spaces that support students. So when we talk about facilities, we try to leverage the two. So when we see that there's something that potentially could use an upgrade in the facilities, we try to pair it with the instructional aspect also, again, leveraging efficiencies and resources. So when we look at facilities, we are looking at things like safety and security, health and wellness, which means the environment in general, so clean and filtered air, thermal comfort, lighting quality, those types of things. We look at infrastructure and maintenance, modern, easy systems to maintain, but also efficient systems that increase energy savings, and also look at the exterior envelope of the buildings, again, for efficiencies and for energy savings. We also look at accessibility, so trying as much as possible to make all the buildings accessible to all people, from toilet rooms to interior and exterior entrances, site circulation, and even parking. And then also site improvements, which range from athletic fields to support students in the community, to stairs, ramps, and stormwater. We want to focus a little bit more on the instructional aspect of the needs and of our findings. And before we get into those, we want to kind of just talk through how we break up instructional spaces into several different components. So firstly, classrooms, and which extends into additional learning spaces. So classrooms that provide flexibility for individual study, for traditional lecture when that's appropriate, for team-based learning with multiple teaching walls, different media, and write-on surfaces that support a student's desire that particular day sometimes, or a teacher's way of teaching that day. You can see from the images, the top plan, that a typical classroom really looks like an open space that allows for a room to be rearranged for that day. So allowing for small group learning areas, for a teacher station, for different learning group sizes, and for even casual learning. When we go into extended learning, we're focused on not just breakout rooms and small group spaces or conference rooms that also are also supervised with some transparency to allow for that. But we're also talking about different types of spaces that allow learning to occur outside the classroom. So in this case, an assembly space that acts as a gathering space. It acts as a space for students to work casually, to study, and even to eat sometimes. That sort of leads into student commons and library spaces, library and media centers, which have changed pretty tremendously in the past several years. So looking at, again, flexible instructional spaces, both for students and the community, to act as an event space. A lot of districts often use their libraries for boardrooms. So being able to adapt very quickly to the setting for the purpose. But also within that space, creating zones for small and large groups, for various learning modes, and for casual, formal, individual reading and study, and even socializing, depending on the grade level. Then technology and innovation. So looking at space from robotics and STEM or STEAM to FACS and allied health services and art and music, and really looking at the range of the types of spaces and designing them in a way that is more reflective of the professional environment. And then lastly, student wellness. So really taking a cohesive approach of how to support a student emotionally, mentally, physically, co-locating these services to improve coordination, to improve collaboration, and just overall efficiencies. And most importantly, where a student feels comfortable and safe to enter. So, gosh, I think we started the second week of September. We have visited the buildings several times at this point. Initially, we met obviously with the administration, but we met with all the building leaders for our first meeting, where we sat down, talked through talk through their buildings, how they see them, how they're teaching, how students are currently learning, how they could be learning, what types of deficiencies that they see in their buildings that either inhibit a program or just don't allow it to really function as well as they could. And through that, we went through, we sort of went back to our office, took all the information, then we're given some floor plans to sort of spend a little bit more time understanding the buildings, and then did a second round, and then a third round. And so what we really want to focus on is the findings and some of the limitations that we see and the opportunities I think that will grow out of this. And so we will look at doing it school by school. And in this case, at the high school, looking at it in sections by floor and by the administrative block and the specials block. So what you're seeing is the administrative and special block of the high school. In general, one of the big things we've noted is that the school doesn't really support a student-focused experience, which is prevalent in the strategic plan. So that includes space and technology that supports collaborative and project-based learning. When we get more granular, we start to look at all spaces, including initially let me try this point here. The absence of secure vestibule and the entrance in general. So the entrance really lacks identity. In some cases, there are entrances that are competing. Let me see if I can get this to work, sorry. So there's a main entrance, and then there's a second auditorium entry, and sometimes it's quite confusing to know which entrance is the actual main entrance. There is an absence of a lobby and upon arrival, and also some lack of visual clarity when you enter the space. There's no lobby, and the main entrance to the main office actually sits behind a trophy case. So sort of with no real clear visual connection to the main office in either direction, from a student or visitor perspective or from the main office. Student support services are dispersed, so there's a little lack of cohesion. Guidance and nurse, which is called out in the note. You can see it sort of sits behind the main office with an entrance from the back corridor. Oh, there it is.
Yeah, but it doesn't work.
Okay, so guidance and nurse are tucked away. The organization is quite maze-like if you've been there. Then there's really no sense of arrival, and the nurse's office is sort of tucked away even more within that space, and it lacks natural daylight, as do the student cots and sick area that are part of that suite. Music spaces require some renovations and modernization. Most of them are in somewhat of a typical classroom with not much consideration for acoustical properties. The fitness center is only accessible from the gym and is overcrowded. Yes, when we look at the academic wing, you can see the sort of the areas that we've called out include the technology labs, the area where in the center where the mini theaters are, a couple psychologist offices that are sort of outside of the main support service area, outside of guidance and outside of the nurses space, and then a typical hallway and locker. So a couple of the things include the robotics and fabrications labs that are sort of at the top of the plan called out, where they are programs that are just taking place in a typical classroom with minimal storage, and the labs are not really integrated into a technology hub. So there's sort of dispersed program across the building. They lack visibility to attract students, and doesn't really project the notion of technology or innovation. The two mini theaters, which are kind of in the center of the plan, are used as general classrooms. So again, they're inboard and lack general natural daylight. There are several small classrooms that are kind of tucked away at the bottom of those spaces sort of behind the lecture area. And then when we move on to the library, as we talk about libraries and the modern components that make them up, I think this is one of the spaces that also is a real opportunity to embrace. Science research, or STIR, is located within the library. So again, only visible to students who are actually in the library. And then the flow of the academic block is very repetitive and monotonous. There's a real lack of understanding of where you are in any one of the corridors because they look exactly the same. There's a lack of identity or character, and there's really no place for students to either connect or gather sort of in between classes, or to take an opportunity to have some small discussion. The lockers are not used, so again, maybe an opportunity for us to look at that. And then going to the second floor and the partial third floor plan. Again, some of the areas you can see we've called out is the wrestling room, the fitness room, the boys' locker room, similarly with the girls' locker room on below as well. The art classrooms that are on the third floor, the music classroom, which is sort of next to the wood shop, and then the art classrooms that are sort of sandwiched with an early childhood space. So at the athletic portion of this, the showers and most of the lockers are not used. The existing locker room layout has many blind spots, and the supervision aspect of within the space is very difficult. The fitness room is underutilized. The wrestling room is used only for practice, and there's one gymnasium for the entire high school. The wood shop and the metal shops are underutilized. Equipment and storage are old. And again, they're sort of tucked away closer to the athletics and not to much of the academic wing. The art spaces are dispersed and in some cases isolated because they're up at the third floor. So unless you are purposely going there, there is no way to know that the art classrooms are really up there, or no place to even display work, again, to share it with the other students. Culinary is a popular program, but it lacks visibility. Early childhood splits 2 art rooms. And then instrument music classes are in a standard classroom, again, absent of acoustical considerations and isolated from other music spaces. So you can see some of the examples that we've tried to capture to kind of connect those. And then looking at just the site, an overview of the site, we've identified traffic congestion back up along Viola Road, along the intersection at the security shed and the main parking lot. The tennis courts are beyond their useful life. There are drainage concerns with them. And 2 of the courts were at some point converted to basketball courts, I think where they could use additional courts, potentially pickleball courts as well. And there's a lack of outdoor varsity and JV competition playing fields. As you all know, the main field is at the middle school, and transportation to and from becomes problematic for practice. And then lastly, the track requires a full replacement. Moving on to the middle school. Do you want to do the middle school?
Yes, I can do the middle school. So I will start for the instructional spaces are remote, and it's one of the most complicated buildings that we have seen. And we have different types of spaces all over the building. So one of the things that we would like to do is just to consolidate, for example, classrooms and the kind of spaces that we have. Then we have, for example, on the left side, it's a little bit, part of it, it's underground at least a little bit, and that's an issue, especially at the wrestling room and fitness room. That is one of the concerns. Then the locker rooms and team rooms are in poor condition, and that's something that we can do, and we should work on those, because this is the main field is on this school. So there are a lot of opportunities to work on the locker rooms on both sides, to do, for example, for teams and visiting teams, and we have we have identified those spaces as spaces that we can work with. The fitness room again is underutilized. Resting room as well, and the ventilation is a problem. We saw also that there was water infiltration in the restroom room, so that's something that we have to look at. And then the cafeteria, that's another space that it's a little bit difficult because you have all these walls. It seems that it was an addition at some point. So you have all these walls and you don't have a real good the visual supervision is not is a little bit challenging on that space because it's subdivided in so many spaces, and it could be a really great space. The technology labs lacks a little bit of organization. We would like to have to consolidate more those spaces if we can. And then again, the spaces are in really good condition, but they lack a little bit of I would say inspirational spaces, and you will see some images later of what we mean with that. The music suite is isolated on the right. Again, I think that can be improved. It's also on a different level, so it's we are also lacking instrument storage. So that's another space that we think that we can work with, and we have some ideas. We'll have some ideas. The locker rooms, I already spoke about those, and the reorganization of those, it's important for this school. So going forward, and then, yeah, you can see some of the photos, for example, on the left where it says locker rooms, there.
Yeah, I think one of the things that we've noted here is that the special education classrooms are very remote in this building on the lower level. And they're also down below a level as well. So you have to go downstairs to actually get to those spaces. You can see one example on the bottom left-hand side. And then there are a few others that are sort of scattered across the main block. So that I think is one thing we would like to address as well.
So moving forward, this is the next level. And in this case, with the main entrance, is not easy identifiable because the first thing that you look at is the other entrance near to the auditorium. That's the one that your view looks goes. You look at that as the main entrance. So we are missing that one. At the main entrance, then we have two trees on both sides that they are really hiding the entrance as well. So we think that it's a part that we can reorganize the guidance, and also the nurses suite. It's a little bit, and we could do something better, reorganize those spaces a little bit more because it's inefficiently utilized, and the cots are in a common room, and one of them near to a storage space. The library, again, we think the spaces are good, but they could be much, much better. And we will show some examples that we have done about libraries, because we think those spaces should be inspirational spaces. The same thing, for example, for the high school, you have a great view out of the library, but you have all the books at that side instead of having the spaces for the students to be there. So again, library. Science, art, and music classrooms are dispersed, and we would like to consolidate those as well. And there's also a digital music room that it's isolated behind the stage. That we might be able to do something with that space again. Then the bleachers, there are no bleachers in the new gym, and the heating system is very loud, and that was one of the concerns that the athletic director told us. And then there's no difference between the new gym and the old gym. But, and we can do something also to distinguish those spaces. Next one. Then again, the science labs. We have science labs all over the place, and we would like to consolidate those ones. There are also the ones on the top that are strange spaces. It seems that some things happen during the last years, and we have those strange spaces for some of the labs, and we would like to do something about that. The fax rooms is also, it seems to be dated, and there's a lack of organization. On that one, you can see it on the bottom left. That could be improved. Also, the way it's organized, you're not able to see the teacher at the same time as you are doing things, and that's something that we can do. The art room on the right, there's also some things that we can do there, and it should look like an art room, not just another classroom. So there are a lot of opportunities on that one.
And then I think one of the last things with the middle school is when we talked a lot about this with the principal is the fact that sixth grade is not really clustered, and trying to provide a cluster or a grouping for them because they don't switch classes as often as seventh and eighth grade, and whereas seventh and eighth grade are being more prepared for high school. So looking at ways to kind of take a section and create more of a sixth grade wing or cluster. And which would entail probably some reorganization of some of the space. Then at the middle, the site overview, as you know, the middle school and the high school use the outdoor facilities. The main fields is approaching its end of life and is very slippery. So we plan to address that. The lights should be changed to LED lights for efficiency. The scoreboard is also at its end of useful life. The bleacher seat tops should be changed. There's some concerns with that. And the outdoor fitness space, which is a course in some ways is rated for 13-year-olds and older. So it's not really compatible with the group age here. So we've talked maybe about trying to figure out a way to reuse it or to move it or do something with it. And then lastly, the lacrosse. There is no lacrosse practice wall, so that might be something to address.
Yeah, and I would like to add something about this, about athletics, because one of the concerns from the athletics director is that we don't have a space, for example, in the high school to practice. So many times they have to come here. So that's something that we will be looking at because it might be an opportunity for the high school to do something for athletics. Also because it's our understanding is athletics is a very big part of this district. So we will be thinking about something at the high school.
Then when we move on to elementary, things are a little bit simpler. We sort of combined grades 3 through 5, so looking at Cherry Lane and then Montebello together. And there's a lot of similarities between all the elementary schools, but to just sort of hit on some of the big topics. Some of the entrances have a minimal secure vestibules area, so and require updates. So we'll be addressing those, the ones that should have them or don't have them. In general, student support services and the Family Resource Center are not co-located, and services are sort of dispersed throughout the building. You can see at Montebello at the top right of the plan, there's student support services. There are several spaces, and then on the lower ground floor plan, you can see that there are some psychologist offices and a few other things. At Cherry Lane. So again, trying to co-locate some of those services that can benefit from each other. And then at the grades 3 through 5, orchestra is taking place in a typical classroom, which is just too small for the amount of kids that they're servicing at this level. And then moving on to pre-K and K through 2 at Sloatsburg and RP Connor. And most of these findings also apply to the 3 through 5 schools, is that, again, the libraries lack features of a modern library, with zones for different types of learning and for study, and reading and play and adaptability. A makerspace is in a typical classroom where it exists, and not every elementary school has one. So that's something we think we may address. And then lastly, the cafeteria serving lines, and this is the case in each school, is within the kitchen. So it creates a very crowded situation when kids are coming in and out of the serving lines.
I would just like to add something else for the elementary schools. The high school and the middle school, they are more complex, and we will be approaching in the way we were showing. In the case of the elementary schools, we identify some themes that are common for all the schools. So we have, for example, the library and the makerspace that should be together. The main entrances, for example, at Stolzburg, the entrance is you have already a stair. When you get in, there's no lobby, there's no security. So that's another of the themes that we have identified. Then the cafeteria and the library. So for all the elementary schools, we have all these common themes that we are trying to identify in all of them.
So when we talk about common themes, and this is really district-wide, to address the limitations and to look for the opportunities, we've broken it down into 4 major components. Building entrances and hallways, so creating clear, safe, and welcoming entrances through improving building identity, through secure entrance vestibules, and direct line of sight to main offices where possible. And then improving overall circulation throughout the schools through identity and wayfinding, which also can be used for departmental identity, which I think we can sort of leverage. Then student support services, so strengthening student support for health and wellness services through co-locating and centralizing counseling, nursing, and family resource centers. Learning space, improving instructional space to support collaboration, project-based learning, and modern technology, creating modern, visible spaces to highlight programs and attract more students where possible. Reflect professional and collegiate feeling for technology, music, and art spaces. Co-locate subjects to increase collaboration and provide departmental identity, and reintroduce the modern library as the hub or heart of each school. Create a makerspace or a STEAM lab, sort of interchangeable at each of the elementary schools. And then athletics and outdoor facilities, again, modernizing and improving athletic space to ensure that all the facilities are safe and functional. Upgrading the facilities to support varsity and JV team sports at the middle school. Renovating locker rooms to improve visibility, reducing disciplinary issues, and improved efficiencies, and addressing shortage of athletic space at the high school. And lastly, at the elementary schools, providing age-appropriate playgrounds and outdoor classroom space. So as we've started to talk about some of our findings and some of the areas that we're identifying, we wanted to kind of just share some of the images or some of the spaces that we've been part of, that we've designed, that relate to all of these themes. So these are all renovations. There is no new construction here. This is a renovated entrance lobby, which also has a secure entrance to it. So the new glass wall system is the second set of interior doors to the entrance vestibule. The security office is actually within that space as well. In this case, we changed, the wood is new, the ceiling is new, the lighting is new, and really it's to just give an initial impression and again, clear visibility to the main office, which is directly across the hall here. This is another entrance. So again, you can see on the right-hand side, there's a secure entrance vestibule. The security transaction window is right there as well. If a visitor comes in, they come through and go into the main office, which is visible through the lobby. Just finding opportunities for students throughout the day. So in this case, we were able to identify a small area that we could introduce seating, and students actually use these spaces, which is quite nice. Then looking at student support service space. So this is actually a guidance office where you come in and there is a lobby entrance space that is also used for presentations, and then sort of a reception or someone who kind of organizes the space. I guess what you don't see here is once you get through this space, there's a collaboration area where all the counseling offices are located.
These are the libraries that we were speaking. This is a new renovation, and again, you can see that what we did here was having a main entrance, a central entrance, and then having all the books on the sides. But we have at the end we have this curtain wall that it's open to. They call it the little, what was the name of it? The little school or the schoolhouse, something like that. And that's one of the spaces where we put the students, and we're trying to have different kind of places because we think that the students should find the place that they feel themselves better to do whatever they want to do, to study, and creating these different niches of spaces. You're not able to see there are on the two sides. On the two sides, we have all different kind of spaces as well. And this is a high school library. The next one, it's a middle school library. And again, what we did here was, instead of having all the books in the center of the space in the way they had it before, we said, okay, all the books has to go, for example, on the lower part, and putting them to the side and having the space in the middle to be the main space where you can reorganize things in any way you want. Because we think that the student is the center of the project, and is the center of the library as well. So that was the approach on this school, on this middle school, and then having different spaces, small spaces on the left that you're able to see.
And that's, I think, one of the things here which you would notice if you saw the existing, which maybe would be a good idea to share next time, is that by moving all the students in the social spaces, learning spaces, reading spaces to the center of the room, took advantage of all the natural daylighting and pushing the books to the back area where actually the ceiling was lower. Again, just creating a more student-centric type of space. This is an elementary level. So again, we wanted to show the high school versus a middle school versus elementary. And actually, this is an interesting project because there were 3 elementary schools, and each elementary school, we did a library with some common themes through each of the schools as one district, but a little bit different in some way or another. But you can see there's a classroom space in the back. All the stacks that are in the center of the space are mobile, so they can sort of be moved out of the way so that the space can be used for a gathering area. And again, just different types of zones for working on a computer, working as a team, or working alone for that matter.
I will take this one because I really love this one. The world that we have on that space was original to the space, and that was one of the triggers for imagining this space. So we saved that one, and this is again an elementary school, and in this case we put, for example, the different spaces for the students in between the books, creating different kind of spaces. And then having all the natural light coming from both sides of this library. And then we have, for example, this collaborative space on the left. We are able to have 24 students in that one because there's also on the you cannot see it, but there's a smart board on the other side, and then all these different places where the kids can see it, and always having these low bookcases because in that way you are able always to see every part of the library.
Yeah, this was a tricky one because there were entrances on actually both sides of the space, and it was a long linear space. So addressing it in sections that sort of traverse through the space was one of the approaches we took. And then this is a STEAM lab that is connected to the library. So again, each of these libraries had a STEAM lab. Same approach through all of them, a little bit of difference just based on the space that we were working with. But again, abundant storage, ability to change the tables, adaptable either by height or just in terms of moving them around, storage bins that fit into the storage units, and again, a Lego wall in this case, and again, just an abundance of storage in these types of spaces.
Yeah, and something else that we have been doing is, for example, having these laminates for the doors that you can write on, or you can. They are magnetic as well, so you can put things on those, and they can serve as something else, not just a door opening into a storage space.
And then this is just this is a typical classroom in some way. In this particular case, there was some interest in creating a bit more transparency between the classroom, the hallway, and the classroom across the hall. But again, you can see that one of the walls is a write-on wall. The wall to the left is the main instructional wall, and again, the furniture is flexible to adapt to group settings and to individual settings. And this is a STEAM space. Again, a STEAM space, but adaptable for any type of classroom. There are 3D printers in this space. There's water, there's services. You can see the electrical cords above. And this space actually looks out to one of the assembly spaces. So there was a connection between all of them.
Yes, as you saw, for example, at the beginning that we were showing that assembly space with those steps up. At the upper part, there was like a window. Those are the windows that are looking to that space. And the main reason to do that is because we wanted also the students to be interested on what's happening in that space. So to create that visual collaboration between the different spaces, that's the main thing of this. And the yellow. Yeah, because this was a yellow. The inspiration for that one, I think it was what was it? It's
Construction.
yeah,
This
the construction.
is more of a traditional wood shop. So we sort of introduced just a color that was reflective of a work zone. But you can see this is going from a STEAM lab, which is a certain type of technology or innovation, to a more traditional shop. But this shop actually is connected to 2 or 3 other labs. One is a computer lab, a PC lab, and then there's a metals lab as well in here. And then looking to different types of innovative space. So this one in particular is more of a student directed meeting space or instructional presentation space. So students and teachers can use the space for a project, for a presentation, and it's become very adaptable in being able to do so. That's sort of the other direction of this, of the same type of space. And then looking at a traditional, typical art classroom. So these were typical spaces, typical classroom spaces that we opened up to create more of a art studio feel. Again, reflective of a more professional environment for those who are, more serious about going into the arts. And then looking at just a typical music space. Again, this actually was a typical classroom, but by addressing the ceiling and addressing storage particular to the instruments, we were able to create what feels like a music space. That's it. So we have much still to do, but our more immediate next steps will be focused on developing preliminary design solutions that are responsive to the established district-wide themes that we just shared. We'll be meeting with school leaders, with staff, with students, and members of the community to review the design solutions that we develop and prioritize the needs, as that will be important. And then the concepts, as we start to develop them, will be revised and developed further to develop a project budget.
Thank you.
Give everybody a moment to come back and then we can ask some questions. So Tina and Pierre, thank you so much for that presentation. It's greatly appreciated. You've spent a tremendous amount of time in the district, really getting a sense of what the needs are. And as we can see from the presentation today, there are a tremendous number of needs. I've said time and time again, and I know board members have reiterated this, that we have a facilities team here led by Dr. Castellane and Mr. Palma that really pay attention to the building envelope, the condition of the buildings. And with the exception of, I think, a boiler system at the high school, for the most part, we're in good shape. When I know that some of the conversations we've had is when you go into a district, they have all these ideas of things that they want to do for students instructionally, only to find out that you need a new roof here, that you need new windows, you need new, boilers in all your buildings. we're in good shape because Suffern Central has placed a real priority on making sure that the building envelope is taken care of. Where we are lacking is particularly at the secondary level, and this is reiterated by our Mountie Minds community forum groups that have toured, especially the middle school and the high school, is that I think somebody said earlier, I graduated from, Suffern High School back in the 70s or the 90s, and it hasn't changed all that much. And we need some significant updates. And you've really, I think, shown us that there are significant needs here in our district, whether it's with instructional spaces so our students can learn better and more efficiently, whether it's safety issues when students first walk through that building and how they move throughout the facility. The student services, we all know that we've increased the number of student services for kids in our buildings, and we know that we have clinicians that have little offices in closets. Used to be janitorial closets that have been converted to offices in corners of the buildings. Those need to be co-located and in a place that makes sense so that we can provide better and more efficient services. And then you mentioned also music, art, and athletics are core to what Suffern is all about. And there are significant updates that are needed on that front. So I want to thank you so much for giving us a very comprehensive and broad overview. I want to turn it over to any board members that may happen to have a question or two about what you've seen. And certainly there's a lot more to come.
Yes, Mr. Shapiro.
First of all, I like the idea that you mentioned how students going through the building can see other students and what they're doing. It's almost like kind of recruiting students to come into some of the programs. And I think that's really important rather than, you walk into a classroom, the door is closed, or even if the door is open, but you really can't see from the outside if you happen to be walking through the halls or just as classes are changing for you to see what's going on. So I really like that idea. I really like your use of color. I happen to be colorblind, but I happen to really like your use of color. And there's really just so much that I hope and wish that the district could do with the buildings that we have, because as Dr. Gunnison said, the buildings themselves are in great shape, or solid shape. And if we can just now really kind of enhance all of the classrooms, whether it's in art and music or athletics, really whatever it is. And I'm glad you got the impression, or you got the news, that the lockers in the high school are rarely used. So that's a lot of space. So maybe some seating areas for students, like we happen to see that one student sitting in that little alcove. Yeah. So I was very impressed. So no questions, just comments.
Yes, Ms. Bryan.
Just one comment. Our upper elementary school, our middle school, I'm not sure of the high school, we have teachers who are focused on gardening. It would be great if we can also consider a dedicated gardening space for them as part of the overall plan.
Thank you. Over here, Mr. Frazier.
Yes, I have one question. The pictures we saw, was that one district or just all of the schools you've done in different areas?
That was several districts.
Several districts.
There were some of the images were from one district, particularly the one with the libraries, where we showed a high school, a middle school, and 3 elementary schools. That was one district.
One more question. It wasn't highlighted. The high school pool, is any consideration happening?
We know. We talked about it, but it seems like the pool was not a priority.
Yeah, the pool space is being maintained well, and the last renovation to that pool space was done not all that long ago. So in our conversations with the athletic director, the pool was not high on the list of priorities. But that's a great segue for reiterating what comes next, right? And so we are certainly, this, as you mentioned, these are the beginning stages. Even though we've been talking about the need to update facilities for quite some time now, now we have an architectural team that's really, they're the experts that are coming in and taking a look at things. But now there's going to be a lot of additional dialogue and feedback sought from community members, students, staff, of course, the board as well. And now we need to start to figure out what are the priorities, and of course, what is in the back or maybe the forefront of everybody's mind, what is the cost? And what is the community willing to do to support 100% of everything has to be done, or 25% of what needs to be done, or perhaps nothing. And so that's what we have to figure out moving forward. And so I know that our architects from Amasi are going to be coming back to our board meetings from time to time throughout the winter and the spring, because I think our general tentative time frame is to develop this list of priorities, develop what the costs would be, share that information with the board and the community, refine it, figure out what our community wants to support, with an ultimate vote in the early fall of 2026. And hopefully we have success. And then there's the next phase of a couple of years, if not more, depending upon the scope of the work to be done. And Mamasi will lead us through all of that. So there's a lot more work to be done. It's the beginning stages here, but it's a little bit daunting to take a look at everything that needs to take place, but it's certainly necessary for the future of our district. And we just need to figure out what those priorities and what our community is going to be able to support.
Thank you so much for this presentation. When you described the maze-like experience of the middle school and parts of the high school, that's certainly very familiar to those of us who've visited the school with our children or without our children, trying to figure out where we're supposed to go. Regarding the images of the revisions that you showed us, revised spaces, not new construction, were those done during the school year or during vacations?
The majority of the work was through the summer. And then where they could isolate areas, they would and do it during the year. But in general, we try to avoid, construction in the school through the school year. They will take advantage of breaks. So, the holiday breaks are big, where they'll address something that they can manage. And when I say they, I guess we would be working with a construction manager who would help, guide the sequencing of the construction to work through that.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Are there any other questions from the board? No? Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Tina and Pierre. Thank you. So certainly more to come, and thus concludes my superintendent's report.
Okay, thank you. Well, those images were just beautiful. I would love to go to that school. So I hope we can make that happen. Our next item is public participation. This is on action items only. Action items are on our agenda at 2.01 through 2.11. Is there anyone who's here to speak on an action item? Okay, looks like not. So we're going to close that part of the meeting and move on to our action items. Before I request a motion for a consent agenda, is there any item that any board member would like to pull? Okay. Do I have a motion for a consent agenda to approve action items 2.01 through 2.11? Mrs. Hodge, second. Mr. Frazier, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, very well. We're going to move on now to our regular public participation section. This is on any district-related business. If there's anyone here to speak on any district-related business, please approach the lectern. Please give us your name. Please do not mention anyone in the district, whether staff, student, or teacher, by name, and please keep your remarks to 3 minutes. Is there anyone who's here to speak on any district-related business? Yes, sir.
Hi, my name is Shimon. I live on One Crime Place. First, thank you guys for everything you guys do. I just have an issue with busing. Is this the right place to talk?
Yes, please,
I
go
have
ahead.
two things. One thing is the stop that my daughter has. I live on Crane. I don't know if you guys are familiar with it. It's right off the 202, and the stop is basically she has to walk out to 2. In my personal opinion, it's a dangerous road. If there's any way they can either move it in or put it to the other corner, which is on Crane and I forgot the other street, but basically it should not be on the 202. My other question is, there's 2 dismissal times, and we only get busing for one dismissal time. If there's any way, if not for this year, for next year, if you guys can do anything to have busing for both times.
Okay, thank you very much. Yeah, that's Dr. Gunnarsson is going to have somebody follow up with you regarding your 2 requests, and to see what, if anything, can be done as from a transportation standpoint. Is there anyone else from the public who would like to speak tonight? Okay, very well. We're going to close that portion of the meeting then and move on to board member comments. Are there any board members with any comments tonight? Or any more comments? Mr. Shapiro.
Yes, I think all of us have received an email from Sandy Jeanette about next Monday. There's a legislative webinar that it would be great if the entire board could get on board with that. It's, I think, through Zoom. I'm pretty sure it's through Zoom because what else is new? But if we could just all be there and just listen to what's being said and just be keeping abreast of things. They do it every year, and just making sure that we're all aware. That's it.
Thank you very much. Great idea. Any other board member comments tonight? No? Okay. Going once, going twice? All right. Oh. Okay, we're going to close that portion of the meeting and move on to superintendent's closing comments.
Thank you very much. Mr. Shapiro increased my agenda items for this next section by 100%. So first of all, I appreciate you bringing up that forum. Marlo Dickman and I were able to be engaged with state legislators before the holiday break through a superintendent's forum, and we spoke at length about one particular issue that is facing Suffern Central and all districts throughout New York State. But as we know, we have an immense transportation system here in Suffern Central, and the electric bus mandate is looming. The deadline, the date for when we can only purchase electrified vehicles, and there is a movement in the legislature to push some of those deadlines back further, so that they're more reasonable financially for school districts. So I would ask board members to pay particular attention to that information, because that has significant consequences for Suffern Central. And number two, in the professional personnel report, it was listed that Dr. Paul Adler, our principal at Suffern High School, is resigning. And fortunately for him, it is a wonderful professional opportunity that he has that will be starting in July 1. And unfortunately for us, we are going to miss Dr. Adler and the work that he has done at Suffern High School. But I want to reiterate something that he has mentioned to me time and time again, and that is that he wants to convey to the board that he is 100% fully committed to the work at Suffern High School from now, just as much as he has been for the last couple of years, all the way through June 30th, his last contractual day here. He has given a lot to Suffern High School, continues to contribute, and wanted me to express his gratitude to the board, but also his ongoing commitment to make sure that he sees that his work is done and complete. And thus concludes my second superintendent's report.
Okay, thank you very much. Our next meeting will be Tuesday, January 20th at 7:30 p.m. right back here in Hilburn. At this time, do I have a motion to adjourn? No? Everybody wants to stay?
Yes.
Okay.
I would like to stay, but I can make a motion.
Okay. Mr. Shapiro, second. Mrs. Hodge, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All right, everyone. We'll see you back here on January 20th. Thank you very much.